time with Tutorial Just Flow, and in today's tutorial it happens to be another very first tutorial actually on the course. Alright, as we have it on the thumbnail, it's the very first tutorial we are taking on the course POL3, alright, 17. And I decided not to use the whiteboard today because I want this class to be a long one. So, by making it a long one, using the whiteboard might not really take us that much since it's not calculation. So it's going to be more of explanation. So I need to pay detailed attention to every single thing I say. I believe we can hear me loud and clear, and I hope my voice is clear enough because you need to pay detailed attention to the sound of my voice. Okay, I think I need to confirm the audio myself very quickly. Just a moment. Okay, I think the audio is fine. Okay, the audio is perfect. So let's get straight into today's class. Okay, I can see some comments. I can see some comments here already. Okay. Wonderful. I can see some comments here already. I have Mrs. Regina says, good evening, always punctual. Mrs. Regina is always punctual. Okay. I can also see Alaya says hi. Hi. We have Mr. Joe, Mr. Emmy, Mr. Day, and not better wishes. Good evening, everyone. So without further ado, let's get straight into today's class. So like I said earlier, we're trying to see how far we can go with things. Alright, considering the way things are now, we're trying to put in the effort, trying to see how well we can move the classes forward, how fast and how effective we can move the classes forward. So that's why we're doing this. I want this to be a very long one so that we can cover a lot of things. So now, I believe you all are writing materials, and so we need to go through this together. So now, from what we have here, all right, basically the concept behind POL317 is all about policies, all right, not just policies but public policies. So we're going to be considering a whole lot of approaches, theory about public policies. Okay, so just before we go straight into that, we have some acronyms I want us to pay attention to. All right, we have the likes of CBA, all right, the likes of NHP, and we also have the likes of WHO. All right, when we talk about the CBA, this is what we refer to as cost benefit analysis. When we talk about the NHP, we're talking about the National Health Policy. And when we talk about the WHO, I think that is a little bit more general that we should know of. That's the World Health Organization. Okay, so these are just there are other ones we have here, but basically we can't go through everything. Moreover, students in the private class and even non-member who are interested can also request a keynote, which I don't find everything in the keynote. So I made mention of three just now. I made mention of NHP, that is the National Health Policy, and I made mention of CBA, which is the cost. These are very important abbreviations you should know. That is the CBA now, that's cost benefit analysis. And we have WHO, which is World Health Organization. Please take note of all this. So we want to talk about the major thing for this class, which is, according to what we have in the thumbnail, it says public policy. All right. At this level, I believe the term public policy is not something new to us anymore. And when we talk about public policy, this is the combination of two words, which is public and policies. Okay, talk about public, we're talking about a system that affects the citizen of a state or the citizen of a country. Things that involve both the household, both micro and macro. All right, when you put micro and macro into consideration, micro and macro activities, economic or political activities into consideration, they were talking about the public. all right, you and her and a whole lot of other Nigerians, all right. Then when we talk about policies, all right, I think it was with 400 level, we're talking about, yes, that's, I think it was boss 1413 thereabout. We're talking about policies. Actually, the course itself is all about policy in an organization, but now we're looking at policies in political science. But with them, it was policy from the view of an organization. And we're made to understand that policies are different from goals and achievements, and policies are also different from rules and regulation. All right, policies are just guidelines. All right, they are standards, they are procedures. All right, it's a policy is a guideline that will tell you what an organization can do and will not do, irrespective of any condition. All right, so I'm just giving us this definition on a general level. So now we're looking at public policies. Now we're looking at those policies that has to do with the public. Now don't forget, let's take it up from this angle. Don't forget, when it comes to politics, it's not a thing of one person. All right, when it comes to politics, we're talking about the affairs, the activities, all right, involved in governance. We're talking about the affairs of the state. So those decisions, those activities, all right, those making of guidance, or whereby the public, whereby a country is being managed, all these all right, all these are embedded in what we call policies. So let's go into the material and let's have a proper, let's see what the material has to offer. Let's see what the keynote here, because definitely we use the keynote. Don't just use the material rightly. We go through the material, then change it into keynotes and use them in taking the class. And for those of us who are new to the stream, all right, please let's ensure to subscribe to the channel. It's very important. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please let's ensure to do that. And also, we have our private class. In this private class, we will walk you through everything you need to know. It's very important you're in that private class. Apart from the classes, we support you with keynotes as well. And starting from next semester, I want to encourage each and every one of us who are writing this exam, please and please. I think that we scheduled now for 28th. Please and please, if you have not seen the exam timetable, I sent it out to you. Just reach out to me after this class. I can send it to you too. Please and please, when we are writing this exam, it's going to be pen and paper. I'm going to be giving question sheets. Please do not dispose your question sheet. Okay? Do not dispose your question sheet. We need your question sheet. Do not dispose it. What do I mean by we need your question sheet? As soon as you are done with your exam, some of us don't take our phone to. Some of us don't take our phone to the exam hall. All right. But please, as soon as you get home, you can use your phone and take a picture of your exam sheet, your question sheet, or your question paper, and send it to us. We are trying to collate all past questions, all legit past questions from the main source. So please and please, I beg of you, do not trash your question sheet. So now let's go straight into it. Now we're talking about public policy. Okay. Now what we're talking about public policy here. All right. We want to first consider the analysis. Okay. How does this public policy of the thing work? What is it all about? So according to what we have in the material, now we need to understand that public policy analysis is one of the branches of political science. Okay. Now we have moved from public policy into the analysis of public policy now. Now why do we need to analyze? We analyze because we will need to have a better understanding. We want to get a better grasp of public policy. So we are moving it into public policy analysis. So if it is public policy or public policy analysis, don't get confused. All right, we are still on the same pedestrian. Now, speaking of public policy analysis, one thing you must bear in mind is that it is a branch. It is one of the branches, several branches of political science, and this is one of the branches. Now, we need to understand that the evolution of the public policy analysis, all right, to the study of politics became important. All right, it became obvious. All right, the need to begin to study public policy, the need to begin to look into the analysis of public policy became all right, obvious. It became important after the Second World War. Okay, now this is as a result of historical and descriptive method of studying political phenomenon necessitated, all right, the decision of making approaches as an alternative, all right, in the study of politics. Now let's take this. The attention and focus on institution and structural arrangement, all right, was redirected towards understanding the decision-making process. Now, this decision-making process shaped the behavior of government and political institutions. Now, what are we talking about here? Remember, we're talking about public policy analysis, all right, or public policy. And we're meant to understand that public policy of a thing, all right, became something so serious, all right, it evolved after the Second World War. Now, don't forget that there was an issue, there was an episode, all right, and this Second World War, a lot, all right, that led, a lot of pointers that led to this war can be related, can be tied to political activities. So, having realized that a lot of work is to be done, a lot of attention is to be channeled towards the kind of policies that are made by government institutions, the kind of policies that government institutions and parastatals implement. All right, due to this destruction out of this dispute, all right, attention has now been turned towards a whole lot of political activities, among which is political policies. And that's why he said that the evolution of this subject became imperative, became very important. We can no longer keep things under the rug. We have to pay detailed attention to the policies government institution makes. All right, how effective are they? How realistic? How helpful are these policies being? The ones that need to be amended, let us amend them. That is what I just been told here. All right. So we want to consider very quickly that there are several factors that was responsible for this evolution. All right. Several factors. Among the factors that led to the imperative study, all right, of public policy analysis are, okay, some of the factors are awareness that policies and government programs need to be understood by the citizens. One of the factors that made attention shifted to the studying, the analysis, and having a better understanding of what it means by public policy. There are a lot of factors, but just to mention a few, we have citizens needs to be aware. All right, awareness that policies and government programs need to be understood by citizens. You know, it's very unfortunate if the government has, I mean, it doesn't even hold water. If a policy is being made, and those involved that this policy are to be guiding, they are not even aware of the policy. It doesn't even hold water. So the bone of contention is that before policies are being made, all right, you want to find out from the people you are making this policy on their behalf. Does it go well with them or not? So that's why I say that awareness that policies and government programs, all right, the citizens need to understand the policies and government programs that are, all right, that are available. Also, the roles of making decisions in modern day government must be comprehended and analyzed. All right, one of the factors again is that when making decisions, all right, from the political offices or from the office of power, Okay, there must be a proper analysis. Every decision you make in that office affects thousands of people. All right. So before any decision that will affect the citizens are being made, all right, implemented or carried out, it is only fair that these decisions, all right, needs to be properly analyzed. Does it really favor the people, all right, or will there be an uproar due to this kind of decision made in the political office? Are we together? Okay. So let's take this. The yearning, all right, the yearning of political scientists for scientific approach and analysis of government policies and decision-making process. Scientists want to know more, all right? Scientists want to dive more into how, all right, government policies and decision, all right, how these policies are being made and how does the decision out of the policy affect the country at large. That's one of the reasons why, right, those are some of the factors, all right, responsible for the evolution of public policies. Okay, are we good? Are we together? Now let's take this. Now, one thing we need to understand here is that the behavioralism after the Second World War placed the study of politics and scientific methodological approach. Now, this paved way for decision makers to be studied rather than the institutional and governmental running. Invariably, public policy became germane to the field of politics by opening scholars' mindsets to decision-making dynamics and actors in public policy. What are we talking about here? All right, a whole lot of approaches were there, all right, but none seems to have been able to solve the problem. All right, but when it comes to the issue of, all right, when it comes to the issue of analyzing public policy, it gives scholars, all right, the opening mindsets, all right, they need in order to understand better decision-making dynamics and actors in policy process. Policy process goes a long way, just like making a law. All right, and people don't even understand this law, and you want to penalize them for what they don't understand. So making policies go beyond just making them within 12 or 7 members, all right, but it is very important to carry out certain analysis and ensure that these policies we are making now will not cause a mayhem or cause some kind of disturbance in the nearest future. So we have that. So let's take this. It says, the concept of policy science was first formulated by Harold Laswell in 1951. Harold Laswell was the first, all right, person to, all right, talk about or to conceive the concept of policy science. It was basically formulated by Harold Laswell in 1951. Now today, the policy science have gone far beyond new and native aspiration. Now we have moved into politics, policy science, talking about the step-by-step process to ensuring the effectiveness, the making and the implementation of policies. All right, the systematic process that involves the making and implementation of policies. They have that policy science. All right. Now, policy science movement grew out of a quest for a science of policy. Okay, this policy we are talking about, political science movement, grew out of quests, okay, for a science of policy. Now, policy science now is regarded as a higher transition from policy analysis. Are we together? So now we can see that there's a comparison between policy analysis and policy science. Policy science is more of the long term, digging deep into how policies are made, implemented, and effectively put to use. While the policy analysis is more of the output, is more of the end result of policy science. Alright, in the sense that our policy analysis will only break down things. How this was arrived at this, how much has been done, how much are we yet to do, how much is yet to be achieved, and the like. So we have that is that. Now let's take a step further. Excuse me. Now let's talk about policy as a process. Okay, we also have policy as a program here, policy as outcome, and other things. Well, let's start off with policy as a program. Are we together? Wonderful. Now, one thing we must note here is that okay, just a moment. Let's see policy as a program, like I said earlier. Okay, policy as a program, it says most American students refer to policy as a program. Why? A program is said to be a defined, all right? A program is defined as relating to specific sphere of government activity. Here, involving a particular package of legislation, all right, and organization and resources. What are we talking about here? Policy as a program. One thing you need to notice is that when we say policy as a program, all right, it doesn't just hand you up in a box. All right, here it helps to what? It helps relating to specific sphere of government activities. Okay, involving a particular package of legislation and resources. So we have that as that. Let's take a step further. So we have some couple of definitions here about the term public policy. Let's take a couple of the definitions together. Now, some of the scholars that made this contribution are, we have Barrett and Fult. Barrett and Fult in 1981. Okay. So we have that stuff. Now, according to Barrett and Fult in 1981, please note this. According to Barrett and Fult, now Barrett is spelled B-A-R-R-E-T. Okay? And Fult, that's F-U-D-G-E, in 1981. Now, these two provided an explanation on what public comments, when they identify that public policy are remains decision amounting from public institution or sector. One thing you need to understand here is that, from what I can see, is that explanation, right, according to what Barrett said, that's B and F. What they said is that explanation on what public connotes when they identify they pay public remains decision maintenance for the public institution. Okay, so that's not basically what we are looking for. We are looking for the definition of Barrett and Fudge. Now, this includes that formal state and local government carry out. All right, so we have that as that. Let me get something. Okay. Now, still on public policy, still on the matter, still on public policy. According to what Water Corporation said, the term public basically an expression into dedicated government itself. Alright? The term public. Now, it is what, alright, according to what Water Corporation said, discussion are categorized as public policy. The term public is basically an expression to include government and issues. Wonderful. So I'm just going to highlight that. Okay, so we have that as that. Okay, so we have that as that. Now let's quickly talk about the characteristics. What do we have under the characteristics? Alright, we've never talked about public policy, we've never identified public science, policy science. Now let's go straight to the characteristics of public policy. What are we having under the characteristics? We want to first note that when we say characteristics of public policy, we are talking about public policy being alright, public policy having to do with a whole lot of policies created and implemented to affect or to guide or so that citizens can live in them. But the affected policies, alright, they might not be able to get this plugin for free. Alright, but if you want to get them, you can just head to our official website and drop us a message there. So now we have the characteristics of public policy. First, public policy is a positive purpose of action. Positive purpose of action. It is always the way forward. It now depends on how it's being managed. That's what determines how far it goes. Okay. So the next one there, we have public policy consists of courses or patterns of action by which government officials. Public policy consists of courses or patterns of action, meaning that these courses and patterns of action are being graded by the government officials. Okay, alright, different departments, different levels, having a crest, having a sign that this person is a floor manager staff, this is second manager staff, this is the manager of the organization itself. Alright, that would enhance smooth communication. So we have that as that. Okay. Public policy is what government actually do, alright, not what they intend to do. You get that? Under the characteristics. What the government actually do is called public government or public policy. Okay, so we have that as that. So one of the characteristics here is that public policy is what government actually do. Okay, it is what government actually do, not what they intend, all right, to do or say. So we have that as that. So let's go to the next one. It says, why do we study? It says, why do we study public policy? Why is there a need to study public policy? All right, so let's find out in a moment. Now, the study of public policy, which is believed, all right, the study of public policy is believed to be the fundamental to the study of politics. All right, all right, it is the fundamental. It is a footing on which politics is guided. All right, so we have that as that. Let's move on a little bit. Now let's take this. And it's simply talking about the classification. Excuse me. The classification. The one we talked about just now is actually the characteristics. Excuse me. Here is the classification. Now, government at all levels involved. They are all involved. Government at all levels are all involved in large number and complexity of public policies. Okay? So therefore, policies are classified based on political scientists and other various categories they belong to. Excuse me. So to start with, the very first classification of public policy we have here is the substantive policies. Okay? Substantive. Substantive. Now, when we say substantive policy, what are we referring to? Okay? This is the policy that involves what government is going to do. This policy tells you this and this is what you should expect from the government. Such as constructing highways, paying welfare benefits, acquiring borders, all right, and a whole lot more. Substantive. That's for you. Substantive policy tells us what the government is going to do. Now let's, please, you don't need much story. Political science, your courses are, your materials are very voluminous. So if you get the opportunity to do what you need to do, try and get the point, so that when you get into the exam, you don't mix them up. That is what works. Just speak in mind, don't speak off tangent. Now you have all right. So let's take the next one. It says procedural. Now these procedural policies, all right, in contrast, all right, pertain to how something is going to be done. Now, the first one we talked about is substantive, and it is said to be that kind of policy that involves what government is going to do. Procedural is of that opinion that I am pertaining to how something is going to be done. Oh my goodness, my is not charging. Sorry. As far as this one is concerned, his own business is how will what that has been said that will be done, how will it be done? Then you have the procedural policy. Just a moment. Now, we also have basically those two of them. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you very much for that. So now, let's talk about the types of policies, or policy types, as the case may be. Now, one of us consider that according to Lowy, that's LOWY, Lowy suggests a classification of policy issue in terms of the following. So now we're talking about types, policy types, all right? So now differentiating policies according to its type explains the effect of such policy. Like we said, there are different types of policies. Policy, not politics. So one thing here is that we have the policy type known as distributive, regulatory, redistributive, and constituent policy. Let's do that again. We have distributive, we have regulatory, and we have redistributive, all right, and constituent policy. Constituent policy. Now let's take this one. We're going to take two of them, all right. We're going to take two of them, and from there we'll take it up. Now to start with, we're going to be starting with the distributive policy. When we say distributive, what are we talking about? Now this policy here is concerned with what? Distribution of new resources. Okay? Distributive resources, distributive policy is concerned with distribution of new resources. How these resources are being distributed. Now, these policies involve the allocation of services or benefit to particular segment of the population. Let's take it this way. When we say distributive policy, I think I need to adjust this. Sorry. When we say distributive policy, this is the kind of policy that is particular, that is about how the resources of a nation, how the resources of a society, how the resources of a country is being distributed, all right, to all segments of that country. Are we together? Now, please, if I'm too fast, you can always reduce the speed. Let's go to settings and you see what the speed. You can reduce how fast I am focused. Yeah, if you feel I'm too fast. Okay? So now, we also have what we call regulatory policy. And this, from the word regulatory, these kind of policies are those which are concerned with the regulation and control of activities. All right, they are concerned with the regulation and control of activities. Okay, now you begin to see that they are now beginning to make more sense. Like I said from the beginning, understanding the concept behind the course is very important. Public policy here, so we are talking about the science. We've talked about the public policy itself, talked about the public policy analysis. So irrespective of whether it's the classification or the types, everything still points back at how does the government manages, how does the government do well to, all right, give policies that will favor the people as a whole. So we have that as that. I think I need to adjust this a little bit. Okay. So now, let me adjust this as well. Wonderful. So let's just take a step forward. Some of the importance, okay, from what we have been talking about, you already know what these importance are. But let's just still take some of the importance of public policy. Now, it is a mirror, okay? Some of the importance is that public policy is a mirror that guides government in its action. Even while government are carrying out this activity, government still need to follow a guide so that they don't get off track. And when they get off track, they can retrace back their step to the foundation. So it is a mirror that guides government and its government in its action. Okay? It is a mirror that guides governments in its action. Are we together? I think I need to get this off. Please, if you're on this stream, I have not smashed the like button, I'm not doing well. Please let's ensure to smash the like button. Highly essential. And for those of us who have not gotten the keynotes, please and please, if you want to joke with the keynotes, begin to request. I think I sent, oh wonderful, you're welcome, sir. I sent out an invitation to everybody writing pen on paper. You can now begin to request for your keynote. You don't want to write those exams without your keynote. The keynotes are very, very important. They're highly important resources you don't want to joke with. Alright? And how do you get this keynote? All you need to do is just reach out to me on our official website. Just head straight to www.tutorial.net and use the WhatsApp button you find in the top right hand corner. That WhatsApp button will send you directly to my DM and you can make your request. And for those of us who are new to this stream who haven't subscribed, please let's ensure to subscribe. So now we talked about number one importance, that this public policy, alright, is a reflection, alright, a reflection that guides the government in the process of policy making. You can see from that angle. It is a mirror that guides government in its action. You can also see from that angle. Alright? It says here, it arouses, alright, citizens' public consciousness. It makes the public aware that this and this is a policy. This and this is what we are expected to do. It arouses the citizens' what? Public consciousness. Even though you write public consciousness, you are fine. That's what you remember. It arouses, or let's put it like this, it ignites, it draws the attention, or it calls forth, it calls forth the citizens, alright, public awareness or public consciousness. So we have that. Now let's take a step further. So now I want to talk about the conceptualizing public policy analysis. The concept of public policy analysis. What is the concept? Alright, what is public policy analysis all about? I want to talk about that very quickly. Are we together? Okay. Now, let's look at it from this angle. Just a moment. Now, understanding the term public in policy analysis, distinct decision making emanating from the government and its agency, from individual parts, from individual. Just a moment, I need to switch my. Just a moment, please. I need to switch my cables. My computer is running very hot. Just a moment, please. Yeah, I think yeah, it's pretty much better. Now, the concept public policy analysis. If you come across questions like this in the exam, answer it is very simple. What do you do when you want to answer questions like this? Concept behind, or the concept of public policy analysis. 3 words. Public policy analysis. Talk about these 3 words. Alright? As soon as you are done discussing these 3 words, then bring them together as one. Okay? Public, understanding the term public, alright, in policy analysis is very important. That policy you are trying to analyze is the policy made for the public. So you must understand this public first, but before you can analyze the policy that affected the public. So talking about the public in policy analysis has to do with the distinction of decision making. All right, has to do with understanding the term public in policy analysis. All right, is a distinction that has to do with decision making, and this decision making is as a function, all right, of government activities and its agencies. All right. Now, the places public policies to be vital. By understanding this, it makes public policies, all right, to be vital in assessing government decision. Are we together? Government decision is a thing. Public policy is a thing. All right. So the kind of policy government makes has a lot to do with the kind of decision they make. Let's go through it. We are talking about the concept behind public policy. Now, we are being told that understanding the term public in policy analysis is very important, because this public we are talking about, all right, has a lot to do with the kind of policy that will be introduced by the government. That's why we are being told that distinction, all right, or having the public at the back of your mind, or having a proper understanding of the public, emanates, all right, it talks about, it determines the kind of decision making that government will make with its institutions. So this places public policy to be vital in assessing government decision-making process. If you can see what the policy of the country looks like, you already have an idea of what the decision-making process of the government of that country is about. Are we together? Okay. Now, let's continue. So for clarity's sake, policy denotes, among other elements, guidance for action. Okay? For clarity, talk about policy, like we have established before now. It has to do with, policy has to do with the guide for making action, the guide for making decision. For whoever is making the decision, policy is there to guide you. All right. It may take form of a declaration of goal, a declaration of course of action, a declaration of general purpose, and an authoritative decision. It could come in any of those forms. Declaration of goal. Now, this policy we are talking about, this guide for action or guidance for action we are referring to, can come in different forms. It can come in the form of declaration of goals, all right, declaration of course of action, declaration of general purpose, and authoritative decision. It could come from any of these angles. Are we together? So now let's take a step further. So we want to quickly consider the elements. Okay? We want to quickly consider the elements of a good public policy. What are the elements of a good public policy? First, validity. First, we have validity. Validity in general refers to being accurate. Policies must be accurate. It's not a thing that you say this now and You know, some other things, some other time is something else entirely. Now, in the context of policy analysis, validity refers to the internal consistency of logically drawing a conclusion, and this conclusion follows from goals, policies, relation, external consistency with empirical reality. Now, what are we seeing here? This policy must be the same thing in the north, as well as the same thing in the south, as well as the same thing in the east. This is what is obtainable as far as the government is concerned. It must be valid. It must be accurate. Alright? It must be useful. Okay? Usefulness as its lowest level involves doing policy research that is not referred to by the people who make policy. Now, it must be so much useful to everybody that everybody is willing to adhere and observe to these policies. Alright? So we have that. So basically, I want us to take just a few more options, and we'll call it a wrap for tonight. Okay, just a moment. Now, very quickly, before we call it a wrap and take it from the next topic, from the next guy. That's, if I'm not mistaken, okay, that'll be next tomorrow. Okay, I just this week we finish this course. This week, I'm going to finish this course. I'm not going to read this course till some other time. I'm going to finish this course, so that is absolutely, and that's why I had to reduce all classes and focus on only student doing pen and paper, because I want us to cover a lot. Alright, I want us to cover a lot in a short period of time. So now I want us to talk about very quickly the relationship between social science and public analysis. Okay, relationship between social science and public analysis. Now, policies analysis that we'll be talking about, alright, is interdisciplinary in nature. Alright, is interdisciplinary in nature. What do we mean by this? It adopts social science techniques. Alright, it adopts social science techniques to resolve social problems. Okay, now for a policy analyst to be effective, it requires the knowledge of social science discipline. What kind of knowledge are we talking about here? We're talking about the knowledge of political science, knowledge of sociology, knowledge of economics, knowledge of psychology, statistics, law, and the likes. As a matter of fact, policy analysis is an applied social science discipline. Alright? The science that deals with sociology. And when we say sociology, we're talking about how a social being, alright, cumulative, or the collection of social beings communicate and live together. So it is the applied social science discipline. Talking about relationship between social science and public analysis. One thing you need to hold on to is that when it comes to discussing relationship, we are talking about the fact that policy analysis is a interdisciplinary is interdisciplinary in nature. It says that it borrows from there, it borrows from there. First thing, it is interdisciplinary in nature. And for this analysis to work, alright, as an analyst, you have to apply social science disciplines. Alright? When we say social science disciplines, We're talking about an understanding of how the economics, all these things affects human beings. All right, how the politics of that country works, what's the sociology of that country or community, economics, the law, the psychology, and the likes. So the relationship is that this, the application of social science is what gives room for public analysis. So please take note of that. So let's also look at the relationship between politics and policy analysis. All right, we talked about the relationship between social science and policy analysis. So let's consider the relationship between politics and policy analysis now. Now, political science, all right, as a field of study can be described as the systematic study of politics. Okay, I believe we know that already. Can be seen as a systematic study of politics. Okay, all right. The word systematic is connotative. A lot of things goes with that word when it comes to the study of political analysis systematically. Now, the subject assists people in the understanding of human relationship. All right, but more importantly, political studies always focus on individual behavior as a unit of political analysis. This figuring out of the way people behave politically is as a result of policy analysis. All right, it's a result of political analysis, I mean to say. All right, because when we're talking about analysis now, you're looking at everything that goes into politics and why this is this, why certain variables are what they are based on certain prompts. Are we together? So understanding the behavior of people is as a result of political analysis on one hand, and the relationship between this individual and other members of society. Now, what we need to note is that the interaction calls for decision making. Okay, this interaction is due to certain decisions that have been made. All right, so we have that aspect. So now you can see that all these are into each other. All right, as the policy. All right, making process has to do with the understanding of how certain people behave, the way they behave politically, and we have that aspect. Okay, I want us to call it right here for. Okay, let's quickly take this. Let's say I think we have just 2 more minutes to go. Let's take this. Let's talk about the relationship between public administration and policy analysis. Now, policy analysis, basically, you know we have been talking about this. You talk about public administration, you know what policy analysis already. They match these two together. So policy analysis emerged as an activity in public administration. According to what we have here, it emerged as an activity in public administration. And for this, it is perceived, all right, contribution to the improvement of quality of administration and management of state affairs. Now, policy analysis has become very crucial with the advent of systematic planning, and one of the key factors of administration is planning. So, for effective administration, public analysis must be put into some good use. So we have that as that. So we're going to pick it up from scope of public policy from our next class. And like I said, I want us to finish this course this week. I'm going to finish this week by the grace of God. So thank you very much, everyone. I believe. Oh my goodness, I've shipped something. Sorry about that. I think it's my leg. Okay, I think I have my leg against my right head. So I believe I've been able to gain something into this class. We're already running up already. So for those of us who haven't submitted our notes, please let's ensure to submit our notes and let's keep our notes up to date. And if you are new to the stream, ensure to subscribe to the channel, smash the like button, and most importantly, you want to request for the keynote of this course after this class. All you need to do is just to go to our official website, which is www.tutorio.net. I'll do that slowly again. www.tutorio.net. So when you go there, you'll find that WhatsApp button in the top right corner. Use the WhatsApp button to send us a direct message. Take you to our DM, and from there we'll guide you into becoming a member. You can request as a member, you get the keynote as a token. But if you want to become a member, fine, you can just request the keynote and we'll tell you what it costs, and from there you get it and you can start preparing for the exam. Do have a wonderful evening and bye for now.